Hello, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about the Mesozoic Era. And I have to sing a line from this song I heard as a kid that's just like it's in there forever. And it goes, "In the Mesozoic Era, things are not as they are now." It's true. It's very true. The Mesozoic Era was a time of great change. Um, there was a lot of plant life that is, the ancestors to plant life there is now. And yeah, there was a lot going on in the Mesozoic era. I'm sorry that my light keeps fading in and out. That's annoying, but it is what it is. Yay, technology. So, here's our clock of eras, our clock of eons, and the Mesozoic era is right here, right after the Paleozoic era, and all three, the Paleozoic era, the Mesozoic era, and after the Mesozoic era, we have the Cenozoic era, and those are all in the Phanerozoic eon. So here, this Mesozoic era lasted it's kind of disputed. We'll just round it to about 150 million years. And the Mesozoic era was about 252 million years ago to 65 million years ago. So as we said, the Mesozoic era is the second of the three major geologic eras of the Phanerozoic era. The Mesozoic derives from the Greek term for middle life. Meso, middle. And there were three periods during this time: the Triassic period, Jurassic period, and the Cretaceous period. And like I said, ancestors of major plant animal groups that exist today first appeared during the Mesozoic. But this era is best known as the Age of Dinosaurs. Yay! We all love dinosaurs for some reason. I know I do. Maybe you do. They're fun to learn about. So talk a little bit about the climate. It was generally warm. There was less difference in temperature between, like the equator and the poles than there is today. Like, along the equator today, it's very warm. The poles, it's very cold. So during the Mesozoic era, there wasn't as much difference. So the land itself, during this time, the land kind of like formed and crashed together and formed this supercontinent called Pangaea. And let me show you a picture of that. So this one over here I like this one. Can't really get it much bigger, but there on the right underneath my head, you can see Pangaea. And you can kind of make out the outlines of, there's North America and South America. So this one supercontinent. So that existed during the Mesozoic era. And to go back to my notes here. So, yeah. There was also, so I should note, there was what we call continental drift during that time. And yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. So the Mesozoic era also had, during its time, what we call like three mass extinctions. And a mass extinction is when a significant amount of life dies. So the beginning of the Mesozoic era, it began with the ending of the Paleozoic, which was that Cambrian life, this big, huge mass extinction. It was actually considered the largest mass extinction because 90% of the life died out. All those wonderful trilobites, gone. So there was life that remained. There were like sea mollusks and some marine life, and they didn't have anything to compete with. They were just like living there in the oceans, and they could flourish and have a great time. So another extinction happened at the end of the Triassic period, and then the third one happened at the end of the Mesozoic and kind of marked the beginning of the Cenozoic, which was the demise of the dinosaurs. So like we said, all the continents were joined together into the supercontinent Pangaea. And then Pangaea had, by the end of the era, Pangaea had fragmented into multiple land masses. So the separated Pangaea made two continents, Laurasia and Gondwana. And let me show you a picture of what that looks like. So there's Laurasia and Gondwana, which you can see is South America, Africa. Laurasia, of course, has Europe, Asia, and then North America up there. And as time went on, we haven't talked too much about plate tectonics, but there was more continental drift, and now we have our 7 continents today. Oh, I have so many things open here. All right. Yeah, we don't need to talk anymore about that. Okay, oops. All right, yep, that's probably good. Okay, so the fauna and flora, the plant and animal life of the Mesozoic was a lot different than during the Paleozoic. So we already talked about how 90% of all that marine invertebrate species died out, and then 70% of like terrestrial land vertebrate also disappeared. And the beginning of the Mesozoic, the life that remained is, beginning to repopulate, and plants and animals, like, during this time and continue, have to adapt to survive based on changes in the climate or changes that result, like an asteroid hitting or whatever happened. In order to survive, we have to adapt to those changes, or we don't survive. And sometimes life doesn't survive. Right now, we are, there's a lot of change happening, and you've probably heard about climate change. We're experiencing, lots of fires. The polar ice caps are melting. All kinds of things are happening. And so we as humans, we've got to figure out how to solve these problems to survive. It's kind of one of those, like, are we going to adapt? Are we going to do something? There is this natural intelligence that life has to, to survive. So back to the Mesozoic. So there were some kind of like mammal-like reptilian creatures. This was, of course, was like the age of reptiles. I want to show you. Where did that go? Like I said, I have so many things open, it's kind of hard to find. So life moved onto land. Plants and animals had to solve this problem of living out of water. It's actually living on land. And it's just a time of really fantastic development of reptiles and plants. On land, you had huge herds of fat plant-eating reptiles, and then the first dinosaurs appeared. Then huge plant-eating dinosaurs and ferocious meat eaters developed. In the air, you had pterosaurs or winged reptiles, and birds appeared, like the, oh gosh, I can never remember its name, the Archaeopteryx was like the first bird during that time. Yep. So there's a lot of similarities if you look between birds and reptiles. In the sea, there were fish-like ichthyosaurs that had fins instead of legs, and there were lizard-like nothosaurs that could walk and swim, and they developed into plesiosaurs that had like long necks and paddles, and then pliosaurs, which had short necks and huge jaws. And there were other animals that appeared during this time, like crocodiles, lizards, bony fish, turtles, and tortoises, and even some of, like I said, those first mammals that were. If you look up those first mammals, they're pretty interesting. They're not like they look a lot different than the mammals that we think of today. And then, of course, like we said, the plants had to figure out how to survive. You know, sometimes it was really dry. So seed plants began to take over, like seed ferns. This was also known as like the age of conifers. Conifers is those cone-bearing plants. And like we said, there was big change during this time. Pangaea, all the continents connected, and then breaking away, and then those mass extinctions. So a lot going on during this time. Share some facts with you that I don't think I've covered yet. Yeah, and again, it depends on where you look. I've seen different sources say the Mesozoic era lasted 143 million years. Another site says about 186 million years. So there seems to be some kind of discrepancy of 40 million years. But again, you know, a lot of this, it was so long ago. It's hard to know like exactly so much of these things. But one thing we know for sure, that during the Mesozoic era, dinosaurs, these large reptiles, dominated the earth. And they, like we talked about just a minute ago, you know, these dinosaurs, these reptiles had to evolve to live on land and sea and air. But ultimately, the era ended with their extinction. They didn't make it. I will share a Padlet with you that has different sites for, here I can just go and show you what the Padlet looks like. All right, so this was a Padlet the other lower L teachers and I made over the summer, and oh, I think it's kind of frozen here. Boop, 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 boop. So over these periods, the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous, there's a site where you can see some fossils from these different periods. So be sure to check those out. You can read a little bit more, just have like the basic information, a lot of which I just shared with you, big changes, some questions that you may want to ask yourself, like what big changes were happening? What plant and animal life do we see during this time? And there's a video here on the Mesozoic era that you can watch. If you want to go back, here's the Paleozoic era that we have from last week, and then you can look ahead and there's the Cenozoic era coming next week. Let's see what else. Oh, I showed you Pangaea. All right, oh, the timeline. Yes, so your work options this week, you'll have a seesaw timeline. This is really just for you to like explore and play around with, to see the different plant and animal life that lived during this time, just like you would in the classroom. You'd have the timeline and you would get to explore and play with it. And then there's 3 different research options, and I'll share those with you. Okay, so let me pull up Oh gosh, where's the other one? Well, we'll start with this. All right. So the timeline, the Mesozoic era on the timeline is represented by this brown line. Brown showing how life moved from the sea. So in the Paleozoic, it's this blue part, because most of the life was on the sea, and how in the Mesozoic, the life moved onto the land. And so that's why it's represented with brown, because dirt, land, brown. There you go. So you can see here this distinction where the Paleozoic, this Permian era where this extinction happened, into the first period of the Mesozoic era, which is the Triassic period. And you can see this plant life, the animal life that's showing up. And then here's the rest of this. It just, the way it is, it has to break it down. So here's the Jurassic and Cretaceous plants and animals. So just showing you real quickly here. Oh, we see our beloved dinosaurs, the T-Rex, the Stegosaurus, the Mosasaur. And then, yeah, we still have insects and invertebrates. And then, yeah, going into the Cenozoic. So that will be on, oh, here's the other one. I guess they're both, yeah, this one was a little bit different, better view, I think. Oh, yeah, I was going to show you guys. Oh, I don't think you can see it. And if you go and just, about searching online, you can look up dinosaurs or Mesozoic era and find all kinds of cool stuff that comes up. Pictures, facts, lots of cool stuff. The other thing I wanted to show you is your research options. So I mentioned a few of these names. So it would be great for your follow-up work if you choose at least one of these. And again, like I said, we have the Google Slides for these three, but if you're like, I really want to research the Tyrannosaurus Rex or the Mesosaur or something else, you can do that. You can just use like the Google slide on something else as a guide to kind of, because when we research, we want to make sure we're, we are finding out like these essential things about it, like, not just what it is, but when did it live? What did it eat? What hunted it? What did it look like? All kinds of different things. So Archaeopteryx, this first bird that lived during the Mesozoic era, so here's some information here. It says it lived in the late Jurassic period. Its fossils have been found in what is now Germany. And it was like a bird-like dinosaur. And it lived in areas without big trees. So interestingly enough, here is this first bird not living around big trees. They also know that like the shape of its body, it couldn't flap its wings. So it could only probably fly short distances. So there's a few facts about it. And if we look, hopefully you can still see this. Yeah. Your name you put there. Where a fossil's been found, you can search and find 2 pictures of fossils of it. Predator, what ate it, or prey, what it ate. So what did it eat? And then all about it. So this is where these are these essential questions that you can use to guide if you wanted to do research on something else. Where did it live, land or water? What other animals was it related to? What was its size? How did it adapt? We talked about those adaptations. How did it survive in the environment? Did it live by itself or in a group? Those are all important questions to ask. And then we'll also include research on the Stegosaurus, Yay, good old Stegosaurus there. So there's some information, same kind of format, same all about it questions. And then the ichthyosaur, which was our sea dinosaur. So it says here it was a part of a group of land reptiles that returned to the sea after living on Earth. So that pre-Cambrian, you know, all the sea life, and this reptile like came out on the land and was like, I don't think so, and returned to the sea. So there you go. So lots of great work options. Have fun with this. This is just such a really fun era to explore. And again, so much change and things happening, which is understandable when you've got about 150 million years to work with. You know, there's going to be a lot of things that go on, right? So enjoy, and we'll see you next time.